Hey guys, okay, so I've got something a little different today. I want to make over this lamp. And so for the lamp shade, as you can see, it was just a plain little white, it was a fabric lamp. And then I just gave it a coat of white paint. I used Paint Couture's Farmhouse Linen. And then I decided I wanted to use some decorative paper and add that around the shade. So here's the paper I used. It's a paper by Mint by Michelle, and it's called Foil Birds. And I just started by laying it out. I knew I wanted to cut some strips, and so I'm just using my square here. I just marked off 3¼ inches. Why I chose that, I don't know. It's just random. But I knew I wanted to fold the paper, the strips, in half. So that was giving me like 1½ inches roughly for the width of my strips. So after marking those off, I drew a straight line and cut my strips. So looking back at this video, I could have folded my paper right in half and still cut the strips, and probably a little easier. But like I said, I've never done this project, and I was kind of just like winging it. And anyway, I did learn a lot along the way, so I'll try to share any tips that I may have. So anyway, I cut the strips. Again, they're 3¼ inches, and then I'm just going to fold each one in half. Now, one thing I would do differently is I would measure the length of my lampshade, and I would cut my strips to that exact length, because at the end you'll see I decided to add a little paper band, kind of like a bias tape you would use when you use fabric. So it would have been a lot easier, and I wouldn't have had to cut the paper, as you'll see in a little bit. So let's add the paper strips to the shade. So I'm going to pour out some glue here on the table. I'm using Titebond Quick and Thick glue, which is a great glue, and it dries clear, and it dries quickly, and it holds pretty well. So the first thing I'm going to do is, well, you see I've got most of my strips already on there, and I started right on the seam line. So just pretending that I'm on the seam line, I would just add a little bit of glue right along that top edge. I'm just using a little artist brush, and I'm going to take one of my folded strips. Now I'm going to glue it right on that line. I'm going to line up my seam with the fold of the paper. So the raw edge is going to be to the right, and I'm going to cover it because it'll be covered up with the next strip. Now see right there, see how it's longer than the lampshade? And like I said, I would have cut those the length of the lampshade if I had to do it over. So here I am going to glue the little strip together. And if the strips were the same length as my lampshade, I would have glued the bottom as well, I think. Because I'm going to end up doing that anyway, but I'm going to have to cut all the strips even with the bottom of the shade. So I'm just adding another strip. I came in to the right and added glue right on top of the previous paper strip, leaving about maybe it was a little less than ½ inch, or maybe ½ inch, making sure the strip was, straight. And then again, I'm going to glue the little top part closed. And I'm just going to continue that until I get to the end. Now when I got to the end, it was a little tricky because I needed to kind of put my last strip up under my very first strip. And so, with fabric, it's easy to do that, but with paper, I had it glued down. And so I was able to lift it up a little bit, but I could tell it was going to tear. So what I did was I put my strip up there and was kind of seeing where I could cut it in order to fit it in there. So I just kind of cut the top part of the strip at an angle so that the lower part of the strip would kind of hang naturally like the others. So I just, again, put glue on there, and I just glued that last little strip, tucking it under my original first strip. And it fit nicely. Like I said, I just cut a little bit at an angle because as you can tell, the strips kind of all hang a little bit at kind of at a slant, just because the lamp is smaller at the top than it is at the bottom. So now we're gonna work on the bottom. I think I like the top the way it was, and so I just decided to go ahead and cut those strips at the bottom to and even them up with the length of the shade. So now I'm going to glue the little strips together. So I'm taking a little artist brush and I'm adding just a little bit of glue in between each strip and where they naturally overlap each other. Okay, we got all of our strips glued down nice and straight, so let's work on our little band just to give it a nice finished look. Okay, so I just took a strip of the paper, 2 inches. I cut a 2-inch strip, and then I'm going to fold the raw edges into themselves where they'll be touching. So each side will be folded a 1/2 of an inch. Okay. Okay, now that you have your 2 sides folded in, your strip of paper should be 1 inch in width. So we are going to now fold it in half. Okay, so then the width of the paper will now be 1/2 of an inch. Okay, so now we have our 1/2 inch band that we are going to glue around the bottom of the shade for our trim. So you're going to open it back up and then you're going to add glue. I'm just using a little fan brush here, but you're adding glue to the entire inside. So you're going to glue it down on the shade on the fold. So you'll have a 1/2 of an inch on the inside and a 1/2 of an inch on the outside, and that's going to be our trim. I would just start on the seam of the shade, the inside seam, and I would work in like sections. I did like 2 inches at a time. Since you're going around in a circle, you kind of want to, take your time with this part because you want it to glue down nice and even. And it's just easier to do that if you work in like small 2-inch sections. So after brushing the glue on the paper, you're gonna press it down along the bottom of the shade and just making sure that it's nice and smooth. Both sides are glued down, and you just kind of, again, like I said, take your time and work slowly, and just kind of look at it every step of the way, making sure that it looks even all the way around. And so I will just continue with this. We'll go all the way around until we get close to the end. Now when you're getting close to the end, we're gonna cut off a little bit, a little bit of the excess of our trim. And then we're gonna fold under, I should say. We're just gonna fold it under like a 1/2 inch and glue that down just like we were doing. And that's it. I love how this paper shade turned out. This project was so much fun. Let me know what you think, and if you try it yourself.